Try this again. All right, everybody, welcome back for week 5 of Baseball Stats Nerds Fantasy Recap. This week, let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome back for week 5 of the Baseball Stat Nerds Fantasy Podcast to recover the happenings in the league week by week. Also, for fun, we've started a couple extra segments that are going to be coming out to you every week. First one's going to be brought to you by Cooper. It's going to be talking about this week, last week in baseball, some fun happenings that we're seeing around the league. Some little quick recaps, an extra video you'll see being dropped here on the channel. So don't forget to tune into those, please, everybody, and just enjoy as we talk about our fantasy league, our baseball fantasy league that we've got going on with a bunch of us as we try this out for our first year and just see how it all goes. Now, last week in week 5, the predictions that we had slated, me and Cooper, we both actually for the first time agreed on all of our predictions. We both believed I was going to win, that Ethan was going to win, that the kid was going to win, and that Rose was going to win. However, what ended up happening? Yes, the kid did win their match last week. Actually, did pretty good for their first week in a while of having a pretty high scoring match. Miris lost to me, so I took that one as well. Ethan definitely did beat Cooper. So that one was for sure in the bag. And then Blue lost to Rose. So we both predicted the kid was going to win. Both predicted that I was going to win, that Ethan was going to win, and that Rose was going to win. Sounds like we got our predictions correct. Not only did we predict them, but we got them right. So that's the first time it's happened. As Cooper loves to say, they're just predictions. They're just numbers. But I like my trends. I like my math and my stats. Because that's what the handle's for. Stat nerd. When we look at week 5's predictions, the score difference was pretty deep, so I'll give him that. Where I was not close on some of these scores, I was close on other ones. So as we start going through these weeks and we start getting more and more data for me to continue to build my algorithm, we'll be able to see more of those things, and hopefully I'll start getting a little bit more accurate, a little bit more pinpoint on those things that I'm predicting and showcasing. But so far, right now, with how everything is going, that other win for the kid brings them up. That other win for me brings me even higher as well. And then Ethan taking that win over on Cooper, and then Rose taking that one over Blue. Everything continues to shift. So we're going to definitely see how everything teeter-totters and shifts the next couple of weeks. Yeah, we'll see how everything shifts and teeter-totters the next couple of weeks and everything averages out. The number one team that actually had the highest score last week in the total league would be me, but just barely. I had 12 points more scored from my team, more points fielded than Ethan did, so we're right there in contention for the number one team coming out of this week. The bottom team, as Cooper called him last week, Shane, we're considering him now the CPU. He's just there. We all have a lot of business going on, but he has it even more so. So he just checks in on his roster once a week and lets it sit, and everyone else is trying to manage day in, day out. We'll see how that lines up as we get closer and closer to the end. If people are going to continue that engagement with their lineups to try to continue to be that top dog in their matchup each week. The mid-range players, so like just me, Ethan, and Mirith all had over 800 points. Rose just barely under that 800 mark. And then we had the kid and Corey sitting in at 740, 760, with our second lowest score was Cooper at 553. Now he had some struggles where the app wasn't telling him ahead of time, hey, you got these players in, you got these players not. So it just wasn't helping him, and on top of his busyness, wasn't able to keep up in general. So could definitely see that not getting players in position is going to affect you when it comes to being able to see the potential of what you've got in store for your matchup for the week. So, like fantasy football, you missed that one player. In baseball, you've got 7 games or 7 days of games, and a lot of games going on every day. Got to get that move made in before the first matchup goes, or everything just kind of goes sideways. When we look at the top players of each one of the teams last week, Mira's top 3: Rodon, Lugo, and Campusano. Rodon had 84 points. Lugo and Campusano both had 50, whereas I had Suarez, Goldschmidt, and Freeman. Suarez earned me 100. Freeman earned me 80. Goldschmidt earned me 88. So my top 3 definitely brought me up, but with the difference of only 54 points, a lot of my players were consistently degrading in value, whereas hers were staying more consistent. So that average of just the top 3 is a pretty good view into her total team. And then my bottom performers really dragged me down. So if I'd maintain that consistency, baseball is all about consistency or chance. It's difficult, but there's opportunity there. With the kid, 93 points from Walker, 90 points from Scooball, and 77 from Richmond. Whereas Shane's team, he had Lindor at 70, Ramirez at 58, and Tucker 53. So his top 3 were not very high on that rating, and with a 454 for the week, seeing how much he had opportunity when we look at how much he had benched for that specific week. He only had 185 points benched on an accuracy of 71%, so 639 potential points for the week. A little bit of wiggle room there. Still not enough to be able to take that win from the kid. There's a lot of people on the injured list, though, for Shane. So that's going to hold them back when it comes to being able to get those points while everyone is out. I believe he's got 5 or 6 on the injured list. That's going to hurt. When we're looking at Ethan, Perez at 93, Olsen at 92, and Henderson at 88. At an 865, with your top 3 averaging you about 260 points on just the top 3, you're definitely going to be able to see that was carrying him pretty far. And another phenomenal week for Ethan, if I remember right, coming out of last week on matchup 4 when they were playing against Rose, still had another 800-point week. Barely took that win last week. So all things considered, pretty strong team from Ethan. Pretty good contender to make it all the way. We'll see how their team does week after week following this one. Maiden Cooper, on the other hand, 63 points from Cease, 53 points from Paredes, and 49 from Kim. Now, the average about 162 points between all of them is what was hurting their average, and that's what was really dragging them down and not being able to get in and adjust those lineups. So we definitely saw the reverse impact there. But when we look at last week, 4 maidens for Cooper, he had 987 points, almost broke 1,000. We know that Cooper's team has it in them to be able to bring that back and really swing it the other direction when everything is lined up. But baseball is a hit and miss, pun intended, kind of sport where everything just ebbs and flows, really depending on matchup, lefty, righty, lefty, who's at the plate, who's on the mound, just a lot of different things, and defense along with offense. And then we have the last team that we're looking at is Blue versus Rose, Corey versus Rose. Corey had a 743-point week. Brown Muto, 104 points. Alonso with 87. Ellie De La Cruz with 62. So his average was pretty high as well, but they're only at 743. Definitely some wiggle room there on the bottom end performers that were holding them back from being able to take that back. And when we consider what Corey had on the bench, we're looking at an average of 30 points a day with 215 points on the bench and an accuracy of 77. So actually pretty good accuracy, getting closer to that 80 that we're looking at. Still not enough to really bring them back and contend with Rose and a basis, especially with Gilbert at 79, Contreras at 71, and then Mountcastle at 59, averaging almost 800 points across the entire team. They had a lot less pitfallers at the very bottom of their roster. So some contention there, some points of interest that we look at and dig into when it comes to the total season so far. Now, this is just the end of April. Baseball now starts coming into May. I always say it, baseball does begin in April, but it starts to swing more in May because the first 30 games are played. The first 30 days of baseball have officially started. Now we can start to see who settles in, who starts to fall behind, and who gets hotter as the months go. So this is a key integral part of baseball right now. I'm gonna look forward to seeing what matchup 6 looks like as we get into May. Now, when we really look at this and that we break it down by day, I had a high of 196 points and a low of 50, whereas Cooper had a high of 111 and a low of 38. They actually had a high of 107 points benched on actually yesterday on the 28th. So that 107 points dragged them down, not enough to get them caught up, but that average of 48.7 a day really starts to hurt when you're looking at number of points benched versus number of points that are fielded. We've got Corey. His average is 161 for his high and a low of 71 for an average of 106 a day for points earned, so pretty high there for Corey. Miris had a high of 157, a low of 74, and an average of a 118, so really staying above that 100-point mark almost every day with only 2 days under 100 points, even with our day where a lot of us are missing, or a lot of us had not a lot of games being played on Tuesday because it was a minimal game day. Still pretty high for Miris. For Ethan, a high of 234, a monster day on Friday, really brought them closer to that 800 point mark. That 866 was really just because of that one day, and we got to really see that their accuracy of the 80.2 really shining through and pulling them forward. The kid, 185 point high, a low of 30, so really got dragged down by Thursday's missing games, so not enough points there to be able to drag him through, but still being able to carry it through with a 766, of course, against the CPU, but still doing a solid job there. Shane, even though he's not able to hop on and check his roster, still earning 454 for the week, averaging a 500 still week by week. His lowest day was a 23, his highest day was a 102. Highest day was actually yesterday on Sunday when everyone was just already slated, already good to go. We'll look to see how many more points he can start to earn when his players come back in and start to feel more healthy and are actually in the rotation again as everything works through. And then Rose, that average of 141 for the high and that low of 67 with an accuracy of 74%. They had 279 points on the bench total throughout the week. Still came out with the win. Could have been at that 800 point mark and been one of the fourth players to make it to 800, but still a pretty solid week for Rose. So there's a lot of good things that I'm looking at here. Something I was telling the guys earlier this week, I'm looking at accuracy now as well, not just points fielded, to be able to get an idea of who's missing what points where and what day. I'm going to be working on an algorithm that shows, like we've got some players, Jeff McNeil, he plays second, right, and third. Well, I can only put him in certain spots throughout the day, and then other players who play just second, or just third, or just catcher. So it's easier to say of, oh, I left them on the bench. They could have earned me this many more points to really get that dug into. So it's helping out predict who's going to carry that forward and give us a better look into week by week and really digging in on some more trends. Of course, going back to what Cooper said, just predictions. I like them. I love them. I'm going to keep sticking with them. Our top 3 teams so far currently, right now, with everything going through, I'm 4-1, so is Rose. We're tied for the analog era. We've got Maiden, Cooper at 2-3, and then Shane's 1-4. So the analog era right now is ruled by me and Rose being right up there, and then Cooper being 2 games behind us on just overall performance so far. But coming into week 6, we're going to look at those predictions here in a second and try to see if he's going to come out on top and be closer to that 50-50, while Shane still falls further back. And then in the digital era, it's solely owned by Ethan. They're 4-1, with both the kid and Corey being at 2-3, so just under 500, and then Meredith being at that 1-4. So Meredith's lost last week. If they would have won, they'd be 2-3 right now rather than 1-4. So they are currently trailing the way in the digital era. We'll see if they can pull that back in, and then wrangle up for some opportunities next week. It's gonna be an interesting week coming to week 6. We've got Meredith and Shane. So we see that Meredith has the opportunity to get an easy win, not a free win, but an easy win. It all really comes down to the cards of how is Shane's team going to perform with all the injuries. It's me versus Ethan this coming week, and it's going to be a pretty tight match. Now, my math says that I'm going to win just barely against Ethan for this coming up week. I'm really hoping I'll be able to take that 5-1 and be able to just maintain that lead in the analog era and stay with Rose. If not, I fall behind. I take second place rather than staying in first. We've got Cooper and Corey next week going at it. Now, I'm predicting that it's going to be Corey taking Cooper over on this one. We'll see. The math says 1, but I believe it's another. Just some intuition here, just some feeling for that one. And then Rose is going to be taking the kid on next week, and I'm predicting that Rose is going to be beating the kid. And I got predictions from Corey this week. He believes Cooper's going to beat him. He believes that Rose is going to win. I'm going to win, and that Meredith is going to win. So a little bit of alignment there. And then with Cooper's predictions, he believes that he's going to win. He believes that Meredith is going to win. So we've got 2 there that are mirrors of Corey. But he believes the kid is going to win over Rose, and then he believes Ethan is going to win over me. So he believes Ethan's going to win. I think that I'm going to win. I'm hoping I'm going to win. We'll see. We'll go with that. But quick recap for week 5. Quick dig in. Something I want to point out. I love some just random things I find around the league every now and then, stats wise. But when we look at the American League right now, all the top contenders, like the teams that are in 3rd or more for the division, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, they all have positive run differentials. And with the first 30 games of baseball being played, it's pretty tight, pretty aggressive. We're starting to see who wants it more as the game starts, so who's sprinting well to begin with. But when we look at the National League, there's a little bit of a difference here in the National League. Now, the East teams, they're all top 3 and up. They all have positive run differentials. The bottom teams, all negative run differentials. Same with the Central. A little bit tighter grouping on the Centrals with the run differentials being positive on who's got the better win percentage, who's got the worst loss percentage. But when we look at the West, for the NL West, only the first team, the Dodgers, have a positive run differential, whereas the Giants and the Padres have a negative. And then Arizona Diamondbacks, they're 4th in the NL West with a positive run differential, meaning that all of their wins, they're pretty good wins. But when they lose, they're pretty tight on that game. So they're only losing by like 1 or 2 runs, whereas when they're winning by 3, 4, or 5. And it's just a happenstance of who's got the better offense or who's got a hotter bat, and then who's got better pitching staff each and every day. So there's a little bit of a different story going on the NL right now. There typically is when it comes to just how baseball sways either direction. So again, week 6 is going to be interesting. Stay tuned for our episode next week, because we've got another nerd joining us. He's going to be calling himself the Clueless Nerd. Love that moniker. We're going to explain it a little bit more next week and dig in some more things. But appreciate you for tuning in this week, everybody. Stay tuned. Keep an eye out for this week. Last Week in Baseball is going to be dropping here on our channel as well. And then, as always, appreciate your support. Love you. Have a great week, and enjoy some baseball out there.